The AP poll rankings are out after play wrapped up on Monday night with North Carolina Bill Belichick getting thrashed by Josh Hoover and Sonny Dykes TCU. Now, the AP poll, if you're not really aware of how it works, there are 66 AP poll voters comprised of some of the best writers and broadcasters in America. So the 66 voters get to place their votes. If you're first place on that particular poller's vote, then you get 25 points, 24 for second, all the way down to 1 point for the 25th ranked team in your opinion, and all of them are aggregated together. So for example, to start off, the Ohio State Buckeyes replaced Texas in the preseason. Buckeyes beat Texas 14-7 in a great football game. They got 1,636 votes, the most in the country. Second is Penn State, 1,558. So clearly, Ohio State is viewed as the best team in college football by the AP poll. Now, there are 4 teams that are receiving first place votes in the country currently. We'll go over that. But why are the Buckeyes number one? Because of how they looked defensively. Replacing 8 starters, 8 players that got drafted in the National Football League. You got to replace all that production, and you hold Arch Manning, the Heisman favorite going into the season. You hold him to 7 points, stop him on 4 fourth downs, a 4th and goal. All of the looks of the way the defense was. And then Julian Sayin looked pretty dang comfortable in that matchup throughout the day. He looked good in the pocket, didn't make the mistakes. So Ryan Day's Buckeyes immediately to number 1, usurping Texas at number 3, who took quite the tumble. They dropped all the way down from number 1 to number 7. As you would imagine, early on in the season, there's going to be a lot of volatility. Teams are going to drop quite a bit. There were some major storylines the way that this thing broke down. I mean, an unranked Florida State who went all the way up to number 14. Some of the largest jumps that you'll see in the season happen in week 1 after the preseason poll, right? The rankings come out after week 2. You get a much better idea. But we understood that the Buckeyes are number 1, deservedly got the number 1 ranking in the country behind their head coach, national champion Ryan Day. Now, number 2, Penn State. Penn State looked really good against Nevada, 46-11 win. The run game could definitely use work, but that run defense led by Zane Durant was really good. Denied Dennis Sutton had a great performance on this day. Drew Allar looked excellent, and the Penn State Nittany Lions deservedly of that number 2 spot. 1,558 points, 7 first place votes for this. So 55 for Ohio State to 7 for Penn State. Obviously, they are viewing Ohio State as far and wide the best team in the country, but Penn State got 4 more first place votes than the next team at number 3, which is the LSU Tigers. So Penn State currently viewed as a better team, assumedly a better roster than what LSU has, and they like what they saw in the returning production of all of those guys that decided to come back, because that's been the theme in college football. The last 4 national champion teams have had the most NFL draft picks, and as of right now, Penn State is projected to have the most NFL draft picks when the season is over and the 2026 NFL draft comes around this upcoming April. Obviously, far into the future there, but Penn State's got Florida International next up, Ohio State with Grambling. We can assume that both of these teams are going to stay put in the rankings for quite a bit. Penn State doesn't have a tough matchup until they host Oregon in that whiteout game, and so we'll get into in a second here Oregon's ranking. But for now, let's move on to number 3, the LSU Tigers. 3 first place votes, 1,514 points. They jump up from number 9 in the country. They knock off Clemson, who previously had been number 4. Clemson drops all the way down to number 8. So obviously the home loss for Clemson, AP didn't like that at all. We saw some big fluctuation numbers from these top teams. Texas dropped 6. We get to see Clemson with Cade Klubnik, one of the premier players in the country, one of the Heisman favorites. They did not like what they saw from Klubnik or Arch Manning this weekend. Dabo Swinney squad lose at home, Death Valley. Garrett Nussmeier looked good for LSU. The defense, though, people are saying that LSU might just have the best defense in college football. Harold Perkins back looking as fresh and athletic as ever. Whit Weeks everywhere on the football field. That defense looked really good. Aaron Anderson as a playmaker. Caden Durham leading the run game for LSU. So that 6-point jump for them. They've got Louisiana Tech. So Texas and LSU, you would imagine, are two of the premier teams in the SEC. Obviously, when we get to see matchups later on in the season that we get to see, right, that LSU team play Florida in a couple of weeks. That'll be a big test for them. Does LSU hold up in that matchup? We'll get to Texas in a second here when we break down a bit more of their ranking, but LSU deservedly of where they are currently in these rankings at the spot of number 3, behind Brian Kelly getting his first opening game win for the Tigers. Now, number 4, the Georgia Bulldogs, 1,410 votes. They jump up one spot from number 5 with a very good win over Marshall, 45-7. They ran the ball well. Frazier looked good. Gunner Stockton ran it efficiently. The defense looked about as good as you could imagine and hope that they would early in the year. They got Austin, PA coming up, so you'd imagine they stay in the top 5 for a while, right up until that they have that matchup against the Alabama Crimson Tide in a couple of weeks. Again, we'll talk about Alabama, but Georgia, Kirby Smart's team, they just don't lose home games. That's really the only dangerous game that they're going to have in the earlier part of the season. But the Dogs, deservedly number 4 in the country. No first place votes for them, and you get it. A lot of other teams had some really nice performances, but Georgia, they come in at number 4. Good defense, running the football, the most rush yards they've had in like 20 years in an opener for week 1. They were emphatic in that win against Marshall. Number 5, Miami, they jump up 5 spots from number 10. They had that great win against Notre Dame on that Sunday night. Carson Beck looked really good. He looks like a guy that can get to New York, maybe even win that Heisman Trophy for the Canes. And then on defensive, Ruben Bain, holy cow, does this guy look like he could be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Really good performance, stopping the run, getting after the passer in CJ Carr. Had an interception and looked pretty good, athletic, catching that ball. Miami, though, Malachi Toney, the true freshman out of nowhere, as far as where people were thinking he would be. I mean, close to 100 yards in this game. Look for that connection between him and Carson Beck. Josiah Trader, no catches for Miami, but the youngster, I think, will have a bit of production. The run game, Jordan Lyle back there looked good for Miami against Notre Dame, stopping Jeremiyah Love and J.D. Price. I mean, they held these guys in check under 80 yards rushing combined between the two of them, arguably the best backfield in America. So a great job from Miami holding them. 1,360 points for the AP poll voters. No first place votes. You can understand there were some big wins. LSU on the road, Ohio State against Texas, so they keep them at number 5, but a very high jump. And Miami is all the way back. You're a top 5 team. It seems like Miami really has a great shot at getting to that ACC title game, being a college football playoff contender with Carson Beck at quarterback. Now, Oregon got 1 first place vote, 1,302 total votes, jumped up a spot from number 7. They emphatically beat Montana State. First start for Dante Moore since he had been at UCLA 2 years ago, where he did not look good. But Dan Lanning, obviously, Will Stein made him look comfortable, sat behind Dylan Gabriel for a year last year. Now, DeCorian Moore, their absolute stud of a true freshman wide receiver, didn't have great production, but he had a great block in that game. Apparently, he was in the wrong spot. That's what Dan Lanning said. He was blocking the wrong guy, but he did a great job. He blocked his ass off on that play. 59-13, they beat Montana State. They got Oklahoma State coming up. That'll be the game on CBS at the 12:30, 3:30, depends on where you are in the country to watch that. So we'll be keying into that one of the games of the afternoon to watch. But that defense, Mateo Uyunglele, 2 sacks. He left off. He started right where he left off at the end of last year. Could be the best pass rusher in the Big Ten. I probably got him at number 1 right now. Mikhail Kamara is pretty good. Some of those Buckeyes are good. Deni Dennis Sutton, some of the best defensive line players in the Big Ten. But Mekhi Hughes, Great day running the football. Not quite the production like we thought he would get more carries. Didn't get that many carries. We're going to expect him to run the football a little bit better, but a decent start to what you want from Oregon. Now, number 7, Texas. They dropped from number 1 to 7, dropped 6 spots. 1,293 votes. So right behind Oregon in the eyes of what the AP poll saw here, Oregon and Texas. But that's a big drop. I thought that they might only slide to number 4 or 5. Obviously, the AP poll really put weight into LSU, into Miami's wins that, like, we need to put them into the top 5. They saw that loss against Ohio State as a red flag in the sense of Arch Manning's play. Sarkisian seemingly not having much faith in Arch Manning in the downfield passing game early on in this game. They took one shot, and after that ball fell incomplete to Mekhi Wingo, they just were not going to attack, to press the ball down the football field more than 10 to 15 yards. Everything was short, underneath, trying to get the ball out of Arch's hands quickly. And even when he had time to throw, it did not look comfortable. Also, concern for Texas was the pass rush. No sacks on the first-year starter, also for Ohio State. Julian Sayin didn't have a ton of pressure in his face, got the ball out in rhythm, on time, 13 of 20 passing, no turnovers from Sayin. So Anthony Hill Jr., Colin Simmons, really not really big factors in the sense of any splash plays in this game, when you certainly thought you would see that. Simmons posting on his story, now I get to knuckle, I get to sack. Arch Manning, not a great day. Had chances. 3rd and 5, had a wide open Wingo to pick up the first down, extend it, chance to tie it, incomplete, and he gets lit up by CJ Hicks off the edge, dumps it off. Caleb Downs make a heck of a play for the Buckeyes, so Texas drops to number 7 from number 1. The number 1 team in the country, the national title favorite going into the season. Obviously, they still can do everything they set out to do, but the window, right, the pressure is definitely amped up a bit more so after that loss, and a lot of heat for Arch Manning that he took after that performance. Number 8, Clemson. They really seemingly bunched up. Texas, Clemson, Notre Dame are your 7, 8, and 9 teams. With all the losses, they're like, all right, they get the losses against good opponents. We'll match them up right there for who had been ranked higher. So Texas 7, Clemson number 8. Cade Klubnik, we talked about earlier. He did not look good. 50% completion in this matchup. 19 of 38 passing. He had a pick. Not as effective with his legs that we really anticipated him being. Really hurt him that Antonio Williams was not healthy beyond the first quarter with the hamstring. But again, similar to Texas, like with their great players, eventual top 10 picks probably, in Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill Jr., Peter Woods, and TJ Parker, great players on the defensive line, probably top 10 picks in their own right, really didn't do much all against LSU's front. So give credit to LSU on that offensive line, having to replace Emory Jones at right tackle, having to replace Will Campbell at left tackle. Those guys able to do a great job on the perimeter of the offensive line. But Clemson, they could not run the football. I understand that you've got new backs you're trying. There's no Maffa, there's no ETN like what you had in those great run games when you were competing for national titles. But they got to get that run game figured out, and in a hurry. They play Troy this week, so expect them to open up the offense. But Georgia Tech in a couple of weeks, that is a test. I know Georgia Tech is not ranked. They're close to it. Could see them ranked very soon here. They'll have their chance. But Clemson on the road at Georgia Tech, absolutely keep your eyes wide open for that matchup. That's going to be an early game too, a 12 noon start on the East Coast, 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Week 3 already keying into that matchup. Huge one in Week 3. Clemson needs to get a win. Otherwise, they'll be starting off ACC play 0-1. They lose to LSU 17-10, but give credit to Perkins, Nussmeier. Perkins coming in on Cade Klubnik late in that game, but Dabo Swinney squad, they fall at home to a guy in Brian Kelly that had not won a season opener. Number 9, Notre Dame falls from 6, so not crazy falls. We saw 4-8 from Clemson. We saw 6-9 from Notre Dame, so really a bit of a soft cushion. Not quite the fall we saw from Texas, but Notre Dame, the run game. We talked about Miami doing a great job of limiting Love and Jadarian Price, but CJ Carr, I gotta tell you, as a positive sign, still in the top 10. You got Texas A&M off the bye in week 3. That is a huge matchup. You got to find a way to win that game if you are Notre Dame. That is huge. I don't know, to be honest, if a 10-2 Notre Dame gets into the playoff whatsoever. It's almost in a position you got to win them all. Look, you can go 10-2, but if you lose to A&M and Marcel Reed, immediately you're in a tough spot. Like right now, 11-1 for sure gets you in. A loss against Miami, a great opponent, is what it seems like right now, will help you. But that is big pressure for a moment for Marcus Freeman. But you got to love the signs that they showed. Down 14, 21-7, they battle back to make it 21-14, 24-14. They get the field goal, and then they tie it up at the end with the touchdown. C.J. Carr showing off the athleticism. Give up the late field goal and not able to put the ball in field goal range to tie it at the end to force overtime. But C.J. Carr showed athleticism, showed guts on that touchdown throw, kind of weaving around, bobbing left, bobbing right, going back to his left, rolling left, throwing that touchdown. He looked so good for the young starter. Fields, Faison, obviously the running backs they have. I would like to see Jaden Greathouse get a couple of more touches in that one. But Notre Dame, they fall 3 spots to number 9. At number 10, South Carolina, Lenora Sellers. This was a bit of a shocker to me to see South Carolina go up from 13 to 10, top 10 in the rankings for the first time since 2014 in the preseason, where they were ranked number 9. So they enter the top 10. They were not there for long in that 2014 season. But South Carolina and Lenora Sellers, welcome to the top 10. Shane Beamer's squad, they beat Virginia Tech. Great opening possession, and they struggled throughout the game there. Virginia Tech and Drones kept it close somewhat. A lot of that had to do with when Drones threw a bad pick in the red zone. Johnson returns it to the 3-yard line, and then there's a safety on Sellers, and it pretty much stays pretty close after that. Great decision. Shane Beamer has Vatek re-kick. They get the return for the touchdown. Virginia Tech comes back for 3, and then Sellers hits Nick Harbor for the 65-yard touchdown, already launching Sellers into a Heisman conversation. Very good play. Showed off his athleticism and his physicality with that touchdown. Beautiful deep ball. One of the best throws of the entire weekend. I mean, you could say a mention to one of the top plays, obviously, in that Clemson LSU game with the one-handed catch from C.J. Daniels with that grab. It wasn't a great throw from Beck. It was just a great catch. But in this one, Sellers on the money to Harbor, who is like one of the most physical freak type guys. They talked all about his track speed in the offseason. Bruce Feldman's freaks list, 6'4", 235, and runs a 10-1, something 10-3. 100-meter dash. So South Carolina at 10. Dylan Stewart, I think, might just have been the best player in college football. As far as performances go, he was everywhere getting after Kyron Drones. Had a sack in this game. A little bit shaky right at the end of that first half. You were nervous, like, please get on the field, be fine with the shoulder. Comes right back out there. He looks healthy. He looks fresh. Has a huge impact in that second half. Dylan Stewart, the true sophomore, great game already, really considering this guy to be one of the best defenders in the country. We knew that going in, but after this performance in that SEC schedule, he will have marquee matchups, chances to prove himself as the premier, the best defender in the conference. They got South Carolina State, so expect Dylan Stewart to have more of an impact. And then Lenora Sellers opened this thing up, getting one of those statistical games, so making some true validation to some of the Heisman conversation, which is always fun early in the season to get into. Illinois, number 11, just missed the top 10, so they go from 12. South Carolina jumps over them, interestingly, who didn't look amazing, right? Illinois looked a lot better versus Western Illinois than I would say South Carolina did against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's a tougher opponent, of course, but Illinois up to number 11, 52-3. Luke Altmaier looked good. Gabe Lucas, a couple of sacks. Everything that we talked about in the offseason for Brett Bielema's squad was good. They got that road game at Duke, so a tough opponent. I believe that they get a win against Duke, they'll bump over South Carolina and get into the top 10. Isn't that just weird? You know, it sounds wild coming out of my mouth for Illinois to be a top 10 team, but I've got them as an absolute dark horse CFP team. They're favored by 2.5 against Mensah and the Duke Blue Devils, but a huge opportunity 855 points. So right ahead of Arizona State. And Arizona State, sloppy win. They did not look great against Northern Arizona. Clearly, some struggles running the ball to replace Cam Scatterbo. We know that would come. But getting Jordan Tyson back, are you kidding me? This guy, like 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 catches, immediately putting himself in Biletnikoff Award conversation. The guy is, 6'1", 200 pounds. He's a great athlete, incredible hands, good route runner, tough, physical. They're at Mississippi State. They get an SEC opponents, one of the worst in the Southeast Conference, that is, playing an SEC team. I'll take that one. But number 12, Arizona State, I don't see them with a chance to move up with South Carolina and Illinois' rankings. If Illinois loses to Duke, which is very possible, look out, Illinois. That's a tough Duke team you're playing, but they have a chance to move up. They dropped 1 in the rankings, so look at Arizona State. This team immediately really viewed highly by the AP poll, rightly so. But their head coach was not happy whatsoever with their performance. Didn't like the way Dillingham did not like the way that they looked in the preseason a number of times. So number 12 for them, Florida looked incredible against Long Island University. Tyreek Sapp and that defense, DJ Lagway showing off his ability. They raised 2 points in the rankings. 2 spots, I should say, to number 13, 737 points, so clearly above the team behind them that we'll get into. They've got the same name. They just got a state at the end of it with a really big win. Excited to talk about that one, getting from unranked into the rankings. But Florida and Lagway, if Lagway is healthy, they absolutely can be a title contender. They've got LSU in a few weeks. Huge matchup. They're going to have Texas at home in a couple of weeks. That Florida schedule is loaded, but as long as Lagway is healthy, 6-1 is the starter last year, with the loss being against Georgia once he got taken out of that game. So if they got Lagway healthy, I believe he's a Heisman contender. They're an SEC contender, title contender. Certainly a team that could make the playoff. I think 13 is the perfect spot for Florida. Huge matchups. They could really fluctuate. Could see them go into the top 10. Could see them back in the low teens if they end up losing some. But right now, 13 really seems like the right spot for the Florida Gators and their head coach, Billy Napier. But 13's got to feel really good for a Gator fan. You're right on the brink, and you will have your chances to get into the top 10 very soon. Just wait. They play South Florida, who knocked off Boise, who looked pretty good. So look out for South Florida coming into Gainesville. That is an underrated matchup of Week 2. Florida State at 14. Finally, we get to talk about their upset over Alabama, 13.5-point underdogs. They get it done at Doak Campbell Stadium, knocking off Alabama, sending Alabama from number 8 to 21 in the rankings. I understand them fully not dropping out. It's still Alabama. You still have the logo on your helmet bias. They didn't look good against Florida State. Why? Because that defense looked great. All of those transfers looked really good. They even lost Peyton, right? They lost a very good player in Patrick Peyton. He leaves to go to LSU. Florida State, though, looked great on defense. Tommy Castellanos, one of the absolute best players of the first week of the college football season. Effective running the ball, did it 16 times. He was great in this one. Every time he needed a third down, he was able to pick it up. I did like the quarterback play on the other side. Ty Simpson had to run for his life a little bit, but he showed some mobility, had some drop passes. Ryan Williams got hurt in the third quarter of this game. Dropped some passes. I think he had 2-3 drops. Just didn't look characteristic for him. Might miss a couple of weeks. We have to evaluate and see what happened. But Florida State, well-deservedly to be in the teens of these rankings. They will have, without a doubt, chances. I mean, they got Miami in a couple of weeks. Before that, they got A&M, Kent State, Virginia. Before they got Miami, and they got Clemson later in the season on the road. They got Florida. So if Florida State wants to be a CFP team, it is all right in front of them. They will have their chances with Castellanos, but he looked really good coming over from Boston College. Great performance. Absolutely one of the best players coming out of this week in terms of some of the best performances. I have another video on that as well. Best performances, whose stock went up, whose stock went down. So check that out on my channel. Michigan at number 15. They drop 1. New Mexico, it wasn't certainly as pretty as they would have liked, 34-17 against New Mexico. But if you're concerned about the ranking, you really shouldn't be that much. That early in the season, they got Oklahoma on the road at Norman. And John Mateer, who we haven't mentioned yet in this video. We'll get to him and his performance. But that will be a tough one. 15-18, a huge game. I think if Michigan loses, their CFP chances really aren't great. Because it seemingly looks like in the Big Ten, you can't lose more than 2 games. You got to go 10-2 or better to get into the college football playoff. Obviously, you can have a record of I don't think 2 losses gets you into the Big Ten title game. And if that's the case, obviously you can play yourself into the playoff. But a 9-3 record really seems realistic that it can happen for Michigan. They got Ohio State. They got USC on the schedule. Michigan's schedule with Bryce Underwood. Obviously, a lot of it kind of hinges on this game against Oklahoma because Buckeyes, USC, at Nebraska are some of those matchups that really stand out to you. They have a cool game at Wrigley Field against Northwestern. They'll whoop them. But Michigan, Bryce Underwood, he looked great. I'll step back. He looked good against New Mexico. He was mobile, showed off his arm talent, ability to throw on the run, everything that we heard about this guy. He was a little shaky, had a couple of missed throws. Michigan ran the ball very well. That's why they won. They stopped the run, just destroyed, 50 yards rushing, 40, something like that from that New Mexico front. Terrible call that we saw in this one when their players gets out with the targeting call and is going to be missing the earlier part of the game against Oklahoma. That really hurts them. So we're going to have to see Derek Moore step up, Rashawn Benny step up in that matchup. I didn't get that call. But Michigan at number 15 in the rankings, deservedly. Number 16, Iowa State. Boy, oh boy, Rocco Beck beats Kansas State, throws 2 touchdowns, runs for 1, and then he just falls out. 3 tubs. 19 of 20 passing, 300 yards. They beat South Dakota. The defense has been looking good. Had a very nice performance against Kansas State to pull it out against Johnson, who led them back into it. Obviously, Kansas State falls out of the rankings altogether, but 16 for Iowa State. They're staring down the line at Arizona at 12. Like, we are coming for you guys. We're trying to heat-seek missile, get back to that Big 12 title game. Iowa State, man, like this team I was really concerned about. Higgins and all leave to play for the Houston Texans, catch passes for C.J. Stroud. And the receiving core, they look pretty good. They look good enough for Rocco Beck. A lot of it hinges on Beck, what his play level can be for the Cyclones, but you have to be really happy about the play for Iowa State in a very respectable ranking at 16 for them. Their whole season's out in front of them, obviously, and they can achieve everything that they are setting out to do as long as Beck plays at that level. 17, SMU. East Texas A&M, they beat 42-13. They dropped 1 in the rankings. Iowa State, I think deservedly, with that sixth place move from 22 to 16, that they deserved that. SMU, Kevin Jennings to 17. Didn't look anywhere near perfect against East Texas A&M. So 17 for them. They've got Baylor and Sawyer Robertson in week 2. Really curious about that to see how Baylor does, because they did have some good moments against Auburn, could not stop the run. If I'm SMU, I do the same thing against Baylor that Auburn did. You test that they can stop the quarterback run. Kevin Jennings, perfect guy and athlete to be able to replicate what Jackson Arnold did. So I would have Jennings run the ball 15, 18, whatever that number is, in the high teens times to really see if Baylor gets that run defense right. Perfect chance to attack them. Jackson Arnold goes over 100 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns in that game. Oklahoma at 18, John Mateer, the squad, they don't move anywhere in the rankings. They stay put. Illinois State, they beat 35-3. I was mad. I was like, I had Oklahoma winning this game 38-0, and then they go out and they give up 3 points, and they don't get to the 38 spot. Obviously, John Mateer looked good, launching some credible stats to really get behind his campaign to try and be in New York for the Heisman Trophy there in December, but he looked good. The defensive line looked great. The defense, we expected that from Venables. So Michigan, week 2, I really think the loser of that game, no shot to make the college football playoff. I understand it's out of conference, it's early in the year, but Oklahoma, like a 9-3 Oklahoma, I think can get in there. But a loss to Michigan with their schedule and who they play later on in the year, and we're talking about Auburn in a couple of weeks with Arnold, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranked matchups in a row as of right now. And then Missouri, who look good. LSU, number 3 in the country. We'll see where they are in that game at the end of the. You can't lose to Michigan. And that last 7, I've talked about it. You got to try and go 4-3. A loss to Michigan can not be in the cards for Oklahoma. I kind of think it's their season. Got to go out there and get a win in September early on. Show up, stop Bryce Underwood, get pressure on him early, simulated stuff. It looked like you got 7 guys coming, and really it's only 4 stunts. Getting pressure on Underwood, disguising the coverage is important. Throwing the whole book at him because they need that game. Got to run the ball, find a way to do it. Mateer can do that. We need more production from Mateer's legs against Michigan than he had in week 1 against Illinois State. So fascinated by that matchup. That is absolutely the best matchup. 18 hosting 15 to start the year. Biggest matchup of the weekend. We are fascinated by that. I truly think that it's already a game where we see a CFP team that will not be happening from the loser there. And it's a huge one. Number 19, Texas A&M. They also stay put. Marcel Reed. They gave up a lot more points than I was wanting them to give up. 24 to UTSA. They got Utah State next week. 19 seems about right for them. Obviously, it looked like Shamar Turner-Scourton being gone for that squad hurts them. We're still going to see who the best players on A&M's defense are. Obviously, Marcel Reed is such a talented player, but we just got to see more. 19 seems like the right spot. Number 20, Austin Simmons looked really good. They move up a spot from 21 to 20. Team behind them, Alabama, is at 21, but Ole Miss 63-7. Austin Simmons looking great at that number 20 spot. I got Ole Miss higher in my rankings. So let me know down below in the comments how much you want me to talk about, like my rankings, where I have teams. It's a bit early for all of that in the sense I still have to see a lot more to have evaluations and feel great about where I have them. Like I've got Ole Miss at 15 currently right now, but Ole Miss, like we've got questions about the replacing of guys on the outside, losing Harris. Defensively, you lose, obviously, Walter Nolan, Jared Ivey, Suntarine Perkins is there still. You lose Amos in the back end, so I still have to learn more about the players there, who the stars will be on the defense and offensive side of the ball. Number 21, Alabama. They dropped 13 spots, the lowest they've been in the AP poll since 2007. They get beat by 14 to Florida State. They're supposed to win 31-17. They get beat 17-31. I will talk about the positive, though, first. Ty Simpson looks like he can be a guy. That he looks like eventually he can be a great player at quarterback for them. The negative, though, Ryan Williams is hurt, and you need him badly to play well against Georgia. You need him back, first of all, for that game. The bye week helps you. But Kalen DeBoer's team just looked like they weren't as tough as Florida State, and that is a problem. They should be tougher than every team they play. It's Alabama, Crimson Tide for the sake of that. Tuscaloosa is on fire currently. Kalen DeBoer's seat is hot, red hot right now. They got UL Monroe. They got to beat them by 60 points. Go out there, give up 0, give up 3, and beat that squad. That loss was unacceptable. Number 22, Tennessee, Joey Aguilar. The defense gave up 26. They beat them 45-26. Tennessee moves up 2 spots. I liked what I saw from Aguilar. Did not at all look like what I saw. Losing Omar Norman Lott. Losing James Pierce Jr. Obviously, Merk McCoy is not healthy. But Tennessee at 22, they jump up to because Indiana kind of struggles. Texas Tech there at the back end. Obviously, SEC teams a little higher here, but 22 seems about right. Number 23, Indiana, they dropped down 3. Old Dominion. It was just an ugly game. I got to see more out of Fernando Mendoza. Got to see him getting the ball to Elijah Surratt consistently. I really like D'Angelo Pons. I like Mikhail Kamara on defense. They got Kennesaw State. They need to show up, put up 45, something like that. Put 5 touchdowns, put 6 touchdowns on the board, and dismantle them, because we got to see more of Indiana and to show that last year was not a fluke and play a much cleaner game. 24, Texas Tech. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff. They got Kent State coming up this week. got to really see more of that team and what their depth will be. They've got some Big 12 matchups, obviously, coming up here soon. They've got Oregon State, they got Utah soon, they got Houston, then Kansas, then Arizona State. So obviously all of what we want to see from Texas Tech and who they are as a team is coming up. And at number 25, after they thrashed Nico Iamaleava and the UCLA Bruins, the Utes come up with that win 43-10. They got Cal Poly. They'll do the same, if not worse, to them at home. And 25, they are ranked. I like it. The only thing about Utah is you always like kind of sliding underneath the radar. Not a lot of expectations is when they play great, when Kyle Whittingham's teams are at their best. Other teams receiving votes beside Devin Dampierre's Utah Utes, BYU, they look pretty good. Auburn, Jackson Arnold, talked about their matchup a little bit, who they play in a couple of weeks. I understand them not being ranked. Georgia Tech against Colorado, 3 turnovers to start that game, and still yet you are able to win that game. Usually you give up and you lose the turnover margin by 3. You lose your game over 90% of the time, but they wind up winning it. USC winds up with the win in that week 1. They look good. Mayava look good. So I'll stop it there. Those are 4 teams also receiving a significant amount of votes. BYU, Auburn, Georgia Tech, USC, rounded out by USC's former quarterback in Louisville, Miller Moss, and then TCU, obviously, that big win against North Carolina. So I appreciate you so much. Let me know down below in the comments where you would change, what you would like to see differently in the AP poll rankings. I thought Texas slid a little bit too much, and that was really my biggest takeaway, is they went from 1 to 7 and kind of overcorrected a little bit of their opinion. I thought sliding them down to 5 would have been enough. Maybe Miami at 6 there, and LSU really high in the rankings, like going over Georgia. Like that's a bold move. I might have had them a little bit lower, like maybe them 6, Miami 7 would have been the only thing. A lot of overcorrections. Obviously, we'll see how it all plays out. But week 1 of college football is done. Week 2 is on the way. Expect a lot less fluctuations happening week 2. Teams coming up with big wins. We're not going to see 3 teams in the top 10 lose, let alone 4 losing in the top 10. That might not happen the rest of the season. So we can expect it to be a bit calmer next week and get a bit more deeper into the matchups, as opposed to talking about the rankings so much, and do a deeper dive into the teams, how they looked, what their matchups are. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more college football content coming at you soon here. I will see you there, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.